All right, call the meeting order at 11 a.m. Please join us for, hang on, the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hoorah. There we go. Please call the roll.
Chairman Cicconetti.
Present.
Trustee Hillier.
Present.
Trustee Pennock.
Present.
Fiscal Officer Patriarcha.
Present.
All present and accounted for, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve the minutes from the October 12, 2022 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Need a motion to approve, or is it on the same
No.
two resolutions? Okay. Need a motion to approve the minutes from the October 19, 2022 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Summary of the work session, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I discussed the Township Hall sound system as well as a railroad cleanup possibility on Norfolk and Southern's line off of Outrigger. The fire chief discussed the Riverside playoffs and the provision of EMS for that. It's good news that they're in the playoffs. So, as well as vehicle maintenance plan update and a grants update. Our service director, represented by John Cotterlick today, discussed the October 18th and 19th snow, rain, and wind issues, and noted that four-letter word snow and plowing, and we salted and plowed as early as we've ever done before on the 19th. So today, though, a lot better, right, John? A lot better. Okay. Also discussed during that same storm, we had a large tree fall in the Barton ditch that did require some specialized removal with a crane, as well as the McKinley Creek subdivision tie-in at the with the sanitary sewer. Our planning and zoning director and the trustees had a lengthy discussion regarding the proposed casement development, as well as we had a resident address the trustees regarding an interaction with the sheriff's department. And that is my summary, sir.
Thank you. Any old business from the floor? Any new business from the floor? Just ask you to state your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning. Judy Burr, 1001 The Capes Boulevard, Painesville Township. I'm here to just speak about the Senior Services Levy on Election Day. You'll once again have the opportunity to vote yes for the Senior Services Levy, Issue 5. And as a senior services provider from Project Hope for the Homeless, I've seen the impact that our tax dollars have had on some of the most frail and vulnerable people in our community. This levy supports 15 different senior service agencies in Lake County and helps fund programs like home-delivered meals and congregate meals, adult protective services, non-medical in-home health care services, volunteer guardian services, social work, and case management, and it helps fund the 9 area senior centers. At Project Hope, we provide a transitional housing home for seniors so that they're not on the streets when they're homeless. Issue 5, the Senior Services Levy, is not an increase. It will not result in any new taxes. The senior levy renews 0.8 mil levy that passed with 65% support in 2017. It's the same levy that was approved by voters 30 years ago in 1992. The levy costs $2.30 per $100,000 home valuation and funds about $4.5 million of support and programs every year. And every year the funding recommendations are made by an advisory and recommending body to the commissioners known as the Lake County Senior Citizens Advisory Panel. This compassionate group of individuals works to facilitate equitable and beneficial allocation and distribution of the levy funds so they go where they're needed, most to help provide a good quality of life for our seniors, which I'm getting close to being, so they can stay in their homes and remain active in their communities. Seniors are a growing share of our population. In 2016, seniors 60 and older made up 22% of our population in Lake County. Today it's about 27%, and by 2030, the data tells us 1 in 3 people will be 60 and older. So as the county changes, we're going to have to deal with the challenges of disability, chronic disease, elder abuse, social isolation, and other tough issues such as homelessness. Each year, we've seen an increase in the number of seniors in crisis, individuals needing service, as well as an increase in the cost to provide those services. This is why Issue 5 is so vital to our community and why we strive to continue providing these services. Since its inception, the Senior Services Levy has continued to show its effectiveness year after year, enabling seniors to maintain their independence and vitality. There's no debating. It's up to us to support our seniors. They've spent their lives making this beautiful community a wonderful place to live, and supporting this renewal with Issue 5 will help us keep them independent and thriving as a resource of wisdom and inspiration for all of us. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we have Gary Platko with the Riverside School District.
Okay, great.
Good morning.
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 I have hard copies for you guys. Okay, as you guys know, I'm Gary Placco. I'm Treasurer and Chief Financial Officer from the Riverside Local School District. I'm here today just to do kind of a short financial state of the schools address to the township. If you recall, we started these back in 2020, right before COVID happened, and then we kind of fell off at doing those on a regular basis, but kind of looking to do these on a more regular basis going forward. Just kind of give an update to the trustees and the township. We're not on the ballot for anything or anything like that. It's just to provide information. On the next slide here, we have just kind of a snapshot of our general fund revenues at Riverside. So we have about $51.5 million as our total revenue for this past fiscal year ending June 30th of 2022. Just over $30 million, or 58% of our revenue, comes from what's called general property tax. That's our residential and commercial property taxpayers. Another $2.9 million, or 6%, for public utility tax in the red pie there. More in the top left, it's called property tax allocations. Actually, the state homestead rollbacks from the state of Ohio makes up about 7% of our revenue, or $3.7 million. And then the orange section there at the top, 4.8 million, or 9%, is all other revenues. That includes money from the Joint Financing District levy, which is that joint levy between Painesville City, Riverside, Madison, and Perry. And that probably makes up most of that part of the pie there. So in summary, property taxes is obviously our largest funding source. The section in green, about $7 million, is unrestricted grants and aid. That's pretty much our state funding from the state of Ohio. The next slide here shows just a listing of all the levies that we have in place, just because property taxes being our largest funding source. I'm not going to go through it individually, but it's, our total general fund millage is 26.81 mils. We have a permanent improvement levy that's collecting at 1.98 mils, and then the debt from the building of Parkside and Riverview at 1.35 mils, for a total general fund millage of a total district millage of 30.14, which doesn't include the Lake County Financing District, which is another like 1.94 mils on top of that. If you go to the next slide, just kind of show where does Riverside compare with the rest of the county. Other school districts. We're the third lowest tax rate in Lake County for school district taxes. Perry's at the 20 mil floor. You can't go any lower, and that's because they have the power plant there just spewing money out of the smokestacks. But Madison and Riverside are typically the next two lowest.
Madison gets money too from that, don't they?
They do. Yeah.
So we don't, right? I mean, we don't get anything from that, but Madison and Perry are the ones that get the money.
We do from the Lake County district.
We changed the formula with the last renewal, so now each district kind of gets what they generate. In the past, like when this levy was created in 1990, it did contribute to all three districts, but over time, as valuations change, as Riverside, Painesville Township, Concord have grown, it kind of became unbalanced, and then so we changed it so each district's actually getting what they generate now. So now Perry's just keeping the money from the power plant on that, because it actually started to lose money as Riverside started to lose money to other districts because of how things have changed over the 30 years. And we talked about with the last renewal, do we just end that levy and go on our own? But then, because new levies don't have those rollbacks anymore that they used to have, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to.
No, I
each
think he's
district was
referencing
separate.
power plant money.
That's power plant money through
Okay.
the financing district.
So Riverside District no longer gets any portion of the power plant money?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of just each district keeps their own share now. That was the original intent of that financing district, was to redistribute the power plant money to the other 3 districts, but just over time with deregulation and tangible personal property tax phase out, and just the growth in Riverside compared to the other districts, it came very unbalanced, and so that got kind of we changed all that with the last renewal.
That's pretty impressive. Third lowest in the county, though.
Yeah, yeah. And we try to we try to maximize every dollar, and we take it seriously and make sure we don't go on and ask for more money than we need. The next slide here just kind of shows our expenditures. The blue section is payroll, basically salaries, 25.3 million, and then employee benefits is about 10.6 million. That adds up to about 77% of our expenses or salaries and benefits for service organizations. And it's, if you were to take this pie chart and do one for the school district in Ohio, they'd all look very similar. Salary and benefits are the largest pieces, with purchase services, which is basically contracted services with other entities, at 6.8 million, and then a few other miscellaneous item supplies makes up about 3% of our budget.
So about 80% is personnel. When you combine the retirement insurance and personal services is salary, right?
Yes.
So you're right at 78. So that's right in line with what I would expect. Okay.
The Ohio Department of Education puts out what's called a CUP report. I think it's called District Profile Report as well. It shows a expenditure per pupil for each district, and so we took Lake County here. Riverside has the second lowest expenditure per pupil in Lake County. We're lower than the state average of $13,386 per student. We're at $11,066 per student. There's 2 ways to look at that. Sometimes you could say, well, are we spending enough money? If we're toward the bottom, but we just try to maximize that, and we just look at ways that just to be efficient with our spending.
Or you can't spend, but you don't have, right?
That is true as well. Next slide is this showing our Auditor State Award. This is from fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. It's our 7th consecutive year getting the Auditor State Award. Fiscal year 2022 is under audit right now. Usually that wraps up sometime between December and March of next year. Next slide. Just kind of wanted to talk about some transparency items. We implemented board docs for our board agendas in 2017. That way anybody can view all of our board agendas on there, and we link our videos and minutes to those within board docs. We also have historical agendas in there from 2013, so you can see pretty much the last 10 years of board agendas. And then we also participate in the Ohio Checkbook, which we have the link there. They show 5 years of history in the Ohio Checkbook. Next slide is just on the treasure page of the district website. We have our current 5-year forecast and assumptions. We're required to do a 5-year forecast and file that with the Ohio Department of Education twice a year. That happens in November and March of each year. So you can go on there and see the current forecast and see how we're looking. We're in a pretty strong position right now, so we don't anticipate any operating levies or anything like that for many years at this point. Also some property tax information, our public records policy, records retention schedule, a link to the Auditor State Fraud website. We also have the checkbook link on there. And we post our monthly financial reports that the board approves each month, so you can go in there if you want to see how much we spend on fuel or electricity. You can go in there and see that. Those are monthly there for the current fiscal year and the prior 2 years. We're in 2023 in my world right now, which is kind of odd, because most of us are in 2022, but we're in 2023. And then our audited financial statements are on there along with our Auditor State Awards. On the next slide.
Have you kind of a question, and
Good.
if you don't have the answer, that's fine. But have you looked at operating costs since the new buildings went online compared to when the old buildings?
Right. It's we were able to cut costs as far as we had 4 schools that basically consolidated into 2, so we have 2 less principals. You know, there's some savings like with food service and some of those other departments that instead of being spread among 4 buildings, they're now in 2 buildings. Some of the utilities are, you know, electricity's up because now those buildings have air conditioning, so we're paying more for those utilities during the summer months, but we're also not paying for 4 buildings now, so it's there's some increase, but there's some decreases, but overall it's been more of a savings, but I don't have an exact number what that looks like. And
Your maintenance costs have to be down too, I would think, versus keeping up 80-year-old buildings versus a.
oh yeah, for
You know,
sure.
right? So, okay.
We also get the Outer State 4 stars for the Stars Award for transparency. It's the second year we've gotten it. It's only been around for 2 years. I just thought I would share that. The next slide here has our new strategic plan that was developed. We worked on this for a couple years, but we finalized it in early 2022, focusing on 4 main areas, which are safety, climate, and wellness, kind of making Riverside a safe and healthy environment. Advocacy, partnerships, and engagement, just kind of building more partnerships with businesses and alumni. Fiscal sensibility, looking at you know, just maximizing our return on our investments, seeking revenue streams for facility improvements, improving safety, and just financially supporting district priorities. And then what we do as a district, teaching and learning, just looking at what our program options are and expanding those, and just trying to be, provide the best education we can to our students. And speaking with safety, on the next couple slides here, we have some of our safety improvements for this, starting this school year. We now employ a second district-wide school resource officer. So now we have 2 that can go around the district, to all of our buildings. We've also committed to a full-time school safety officer in every building. Riverside campus and Lamouth have had these historically, but we've now made them full-time district positions. In the past, they were paid as independent contractors. We had a lot of turnover, but now we have full-time district employees at Lamouth and Riverside campus. So we have Karen Sweet and Michael Bruning at those 2 buildings. And then for elementary, we're working on trying to fill those positions for all 4. We have Chris Collins, who started at Buckeye on September 6th. If that name sounds familiar, he's retired Willoughby Hills Police Chief. Mark Rich joined us as of October 17th, so he's at Melridge full-time. He came to us from Chester Township Police Department. And then for Parkside and River, we're still recruiting for those positions, and just like everyone else, it's hard to fill positions, and we're being very selective, and we want to make sure it's the right person, right personality, because we don't need a 10-year-old getting tased by an officer. We need someone who's able to work with kids and work at a.
Let me ask on this real quick before you move on. Some years back, during some unfortunate times in our country with schools and violence, myself and a couple other parents had met with Kaylis and some board members regarding this, and at that point in time, we were told there was outside of the ones that were in place at the campus, and there was no funding to put these in place. So we're just curious how this funding has become available to hire, which I'm happy for. Just where
I think I was even at one of those
yeah,
meetings.
right.
So we are, for this year, we're using a little bit of our leftover stimulus funding that we have through the ESSER program, just because we've seen a little bit of increased discipline, and we've checked with Ohio Department of Education. They said, okay, that will work. We've also are in a pretty strong financial position as we were now compared to we were a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Our finance committee talked about there's what's called a school safety levy we can do that's just for safety purposes.
Well, we discussed that back then, right?
We probably did back then too.
Yeah.
And we talked about it, but we're in a pretty good financial shape. It didn't seem like a good time to ask for more operating funds, so we basically just committed to we're going to use some of that stimulus money and then take them on to our general fund. And then when the next levy cycle comes in a few years, then we might consider incorporate it as that
Okay.
So we do a split between a safety levy and an operating levy. We just do a straight operating levy and just say we're going to continue these programs, and just kind of we're kind of figuring it out as we go. But it didn't make a lot of sense to ask for more money right now.
Sure.
So we just we're going to absorb it into our general fund.
Okay.
And then the next slide just kind of shows a picture of our staff. We're a lot of new faces this year for safety. A few other safety improvements. This year, all of our district employees attended ALICE training, which stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. just to how we address threats in the school, if there was an incident that would occur, how we handle that. And all of our employees did it, whether it was latchkey employees. My treasurer's office went through this, and it's a pretty extensive training. It can be kind of triggering at times. They show a lot of videos of incidents that happened at other school districts, and we kind of just walk through that and just kind of be aware of things that simple things that our staff can do to improve safety that you wouldn't really normally think about. And you may have heard about the Ohio K-12 safety grant that was announced a few months ago. Riverside received $200,000, so we received $50,000 per building for Buckeye, Melridge, Lamouth, and Riverside campus. Parkside, Riverview were not eligible because they were OFCC projects done within the last 5 years. And we submitted an application for an additional $200,000, waiting to hear on that. And what we're using those funds for is we're looking at putting secure vestibules at the front of entrances of each of the buildings, with all the safety protocols that we have at Parkside and Riverview, so they're more equitable among all of our buildings, and even at the campus, ensuring there's a more locked down front entryway than we have now currently. And then the last slide here, facility improvements. As we know, the voters did not approve the bond issue that we had on the ballot back in May. So now we're looking at how we're going to move forward, and we hired an owner's representative, NV5, it's out of Solon. They're working with us right now on a limited scope agreement to try to figure out what our alternative safety plan or facilities plan is going to be. And right now they're conducting meetings with internal stakeholders, with the board, administration, teachers, and things like that to kind of figure out what the district wants to see in those, reviewing prior community feedback and OFCC recommendations to try to narrow down the scope of what that might look like, hopefully by February of 2023.
Because that levy was either build new or renovate, right? Those were the two options presented?
The last levy was to build a new 6 through 12 campus. You can only put one option on the ballot.
Well, but the school board, I guess, who the voters, the members who opposed it stated they wanted to renovate, if I remember. And yeah, you probably can't answer that question. Do I have that right?
Well, they were more against it because of the times we were in with the uncertainty of cost of goods and labor and the inflation that was skyrocketing. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, their biggest argument was like, you're entering into this not knowing what the future holds. What might be cost today, next year when you start building could be 50% more, and then you don't have enough money to do it. I think that was their biggest.
I think that was some of the concerns. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a tricky thing.
It's never getting cheaper.
Never getting cheaper. That's one thing we know.
And the tricky thing about us is we can't do things quickly. So if we were to ask for more money, we gotta go on the ballot.
Yeah.
So we're talking right now, we're gonna be on. If we decided today we're gonna do X, Y, Z, we'll be on the ballot in May. How much more inflation or changes can happen between now and then? That's the tricky part. But we do have a permanent improvement levy that's continuous, and between strategic use of our stimulus funds and things like that, we have about $7 million in cash right now available for improvements. So we're looking at how do we utilize that. Will it be another ballot issue? We don't know. It's kind of all working on, see what we can use of our current funds and how we maximize that, and then do we ask the voters for something going down the road, and whether that involves some new construction, additions, renovations, anything's possible at this point.
I think if I could just for me, and the feedback I heard on that levy was, I have kids in the district, so I supported the levy because I graduated from that Riverside, and it was old when I was there. My dad graduated in '69. It was old when he graduated. So the last thing I see is our kids getting there. But it's hard to ask for 140+ million and not even have a picture of what you're asking for, right? So I think that was one of the big things. What are we getting? We don't even know. There's not even an image of what they're asking us to pay for. So that was some of the feedback that I heard out in the community was they can't even show us what they just say. Give us 140 million. So I think that was,
And that's the tricky thing too. It's in Ohio you have to kind of do it backwards.
Yeah.
And it's you can do an artist rendering, but if you build something different, you got to be real cautious.
I know.
Damned if you do and you're damned if you don't on
I
that
know,
thing.
but
if they would have spent the money to do all that, there would have been people saying they're wasting money on this.
Right. It's millions.
It's a double-edged sword.
Well, full design I get, yeah. Conceptual, I guess, is a concept people are visual these days,
Oh
so.
yeah. It's kind of funny. We heard that a lot, and it's Parkside and Riverview. If you remember, we didn't even have Parkside's property picked out.
Right, I know, right?
We did that.
People approved it.
So it's
Yeah.
It's kind of a delicate balance you got to go through.
Right.
So with that, you know, that was all I have. So, if, you know, next slide just has my contact information on it. If you guys have any questions, anything else you want to ask about, or anything you want to see for future updates, because we're looking at doing this up to twice a year, you know, as long as you guys are welcome to that, and, you know, I can give.
Do you publish this on, I assume, on the website?
I don't have it on the website,
A
because
lot, a lot of this, though, was in the mailing, right? Is it the quality
there's in the quality profile, there's some of this
Profile that
information's in there.
came out in the
kind of
last month?
summary.
in your mailbox?
You know, some of these things I review with the 5-year forecast, so some of these slides are in with that forecast as well, which is on my treasure page, so.
I think if people get a full understanding, you know, having kids in the district, I try to have a better understanding. I think my comment is you guys are doing great with what you have, and
Thank you.
I think if people got a better took time to really get a full picture, they'd really know what we're accomplishing.
That's the problem. If people took the time.
They'd really know what the district is accomplishing with what they have, and I think it's commendable that you guys are doing what you're doing, so. Yeah.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Lake County Sheriff is not present. Department reports, service, nothing to report. Fire? Nothing to report. Zoning?
Nothing to add, Mr.
Nothing to
Chairman.
add. Legal?
Do have one real quick
Uh-oh.
thing. Might be the first time I've had to add something.
Yeah.
So just wanted to let everybody know, Jason left us, whatever, a couple months ago. We are going to be adding 4 new attorneys, possibly 5, by January 1st.
It's gonna take that many people to replace him?
Yeah, so
Wow.
no,
We
it's,
knew he was good. We're not that
Don't
good.
tell him that, right?
we're doing a lot of things. We got a lot of good things came down the pike for us. But the reason I bring it up is because one of the people, her name is Sarah Finilli. It used to be a law director in Fairview Park, a bunch of other places. We're actually meeting with Harley on Friday about this development agreement. Probably won't see her at a lot of meetings, but she's somebody who has a lot of experience in municipal law that will be working with me on this. Most of the rest of the people, got another guy who does what I do, a guy who does a lot of litigation, stuff like that. So probably the one person that would be involved here to a pretty good degree will be Sarah. So you guys will probably meet her, talk to her some, but she'll be doing some behind-the-scene work, and we're meeting with Harley on Friday about this development agreement. So Harley will definitely get to know her some.
Nice.
So got that filled and then some, and hope we're actually definitely going to have 4 people by January. I'm hoping we'll actually end up having 5 because we're going to hire a younger person as well. So, and all of those people will be chipping in here and there, but Sarah in particular will be somebody that'll be working a lot on your guys' stuff. So just want to let you know that. That's all I got.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Very good.
I know I'm getting off easy here, Administrator.
Getting off easy, nothing
Nothing.
additional, Mr.
All right. Fiscal officer?
Nothing at this point in time, Mr.
my.
Chairman.
We're rolling along. All right, trustees, I need a motion to request a resolution to declare the month of November to be Diabetes Awareness Month in Painesville Township.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to request a resolution to approve payment to Titan Asphalt and Paving in the amount of $10,266 for paving on Virginia Drive.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to request a resolution to approve payment to Fire Protection Solutions in the amount of $7,390 for replacement of both backflow preventers at the service garage.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anything else?
No, sir.
No? No? Okay. Hearing nothing else, motion to adjourn at 11:28.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.